Kim now, but Ibu Erlina as the Secretary of Language Education and Art Department, please later officially open this general lecture after delivering a speech, of course. And to all participants, we wish you be happy following this general lecture. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always guide and bless us. Amin ya rabbal alamin. So, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. All right, thank you so much, Ibu Rita, for the welcome remarks. Next, please welcome Ibu Erlina, representing our Dean, Bapak Hartono, for the opening remarks. To Ibu Erlina, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Professor Dr. Karen Fereirra Meyers. How are you?
Good afternoon to you. I'm very well, and I can see you look very well too, Erlina. Yeah. It's lovely to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. Yeah, after 2018, I think, yeah? Oh, sorry, 2016?
14.
Yeah, the first I see. First. Yeah, it's good to see you again. Okay, so our distinguished guest, Professor Karen Fereirra Meyers, Ph.D. Welcome to our university. Welcome back. And it's good to see you again. And also welcome for our lectures at English Education Study Programs. Unfortunately, the Dean is unable to be with us today since he has another activities that he has to do. And I would like to deliver my appreciation to the head of English Education Study Program, Hariswan Putrajaya, and also the chair of the committee, Dr. Rita Indrawati, for arranging our activity today in all the committee, and also all of the participants. On behalf of the faculty, I would like to say thank you very much for Professor Karen Fereirra Meyers, that you are here today to be with us and share your knowledge and expertise in this very interesting topic. I believe that this will improve our knowledge and understanding about multimodal literacy, which is very important nowadays, especially in English language teaching and learning. And thank you very much for all the participants for joining with us today. I believe that this will give you some more new insights and informations about this. And I also believe that this will enrich our knowledge and expertise in this area. So without further ado, I think, once again, thank you very much for Professor Karen. We would love to hear your presentation. I believe that this will be something interesting for us to listen to your presentation today. So without further ado, let's begin our activity today by saying Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And everyone, please enjoy the presentation from Dr. Karen Fereirra Meyers. So thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. All right, thank you so much, Ibu Erlina, for the speech and opening the general lecture officially, representing our Dean, Bapak Hartono. And now it's time to listen to the lecture with an interesting topic, Multimodality and Open Educational Resources by Professor Karen. And this lecture will be guided by our beloved moderator, Ibu Dwi Maharani. So Ibu Dwi, the Zoom floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Novalingga. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And Welcome to today's general lectures. Our topic today is Multimodality and Open Educational Resources, hosted by English Education Study Program, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Sriwijaya University. And our speaker today is Professor Karen Fereirra Meyers, Ph.D. from University of Eswatini, Swaziland. Welcome, Professor. Welcome back to Palembang, though in virtual versions, Professor. Okay, now before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in this today's general lectures. The presentations will take approximately around 60 minutes. And if you have any questions during the presentations of Professor Meyers, you can just chat in the chat box and send the questions in the chat box. And at the end of the presentations, the questions will be addressed in the questions and answer sessions for the last 30 minutes. And if it is also possible, we will invite 1 to 2 audience to ask directly to Professor Meyers regarding the topic discussed. And as you know, the general lectures is recorded and also live streamed in YouTube. And again, also we'll share attendance list in the chat box. So don't forget to fill out the attendance list later on. Okay, now I would like to introduce a little bit further about our professor today. Professor Karen Fereirra Meyers, Ph.D. is a coordinator and senior lecturers at Linguistics and Modern Languages in Institute of Distance Education, University of Eswatini. She has known many languages actually. She knows French, Dutch, English, Portuguese, Spanish, German, Afrikaans, and Siswatini, Italian, and Mandarin Chinese. There are 11 languages, Professor, that I count. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, and also she is active in professional affiliations and also service in professional boards. She becomes the advisory board member in University of the Free States and also editorial board member of a Perspective in Education's International Journal, host in the University of the Free States. She also becomes a volunteer in some programs. One of them is Associations of African Universities and Blended Learning Training for Staff at Lubnani State University. And she also a member of the Social Justice in Postgraduate Education from South and member of the board of NOMSA, Network of OER and Multimodal Self-Directed Learning in Southern Africa. Well, that's a lot, Professor. Now, okay, we now just directly listening to the presentation from Professor Meyers. Professor, the next 60 minutes is yours to present about our topics today, please.
Thank you very much, dear moderator. Let me start, while I try to share my screen, let me start also by saying thank you. Thank you to a number of people. Thank you to the Dean, represented by the Secretary, Dr. Erlina, for the welcoming remarks. They are much appreciated. Thank you to the university at large, to all the participants here with us today. A special thank you to both Dr. Rita and Dr. Erlina. It's so lovely to see you back. I wish I was in Palembang with you all, but being here virtually is such a warm feeling. It really, does my heart a lot of good. It's a real honor to be with you all today. And I am really looking forward to sharing some information with you and also talking to you and hearing from you what are your thoughts on what I will be presenting. So as you can see from the title, I have slightly adapted it because I want to bring in the notion of flexibility. So the new title is Flexibility in the Teaching and Learning of Languages through the use of open educational resources and the multimodality approach. So today is the 30th of June. I am with you in the virtual English webinar series organized by your Faculty of Teacher Education in Palembang, Indonesia. And it is, as I said, an honor to be with you. Now, of course, when we speak about any topic, we have to have some objectives in mind. And these are my objectives for today. We will look at the concepts and the application of multimodality in the teaching and learning of languages. That will help us examine whether online environments allow effective multimodal language teaching and learning. I will elaborate a little bit on the concept of open educational resources and see whether these can be used in a multimodal environment and whether they are useful. And then I want to focus on flexibility. Why flexibility? Because flexibility is one of the very important life skills that UNESCO and other international organizations have termed as the 21st century skills. So as citizens, as human beings, as students, as staff members, the life skills that we really need to try and get are flexibility, leadership, initiative together with creativity. We need to be productive for our countries and for the world at large. And we need to have social skills. We need to be able to interact with each other. So finally, after I will have talked about flexibility, we will see how these three major concepts can work together to enhance language teaching and learning in today's world. So I hope you all agree with my objectives, and I will now continue into today's lecture. So let us look first at the context and the background. We know that technology and technologies in plural have been widely applied to the teaching and learning of various disciplines, including language and language education. So today, we can say that the quantity, the quality, and diversity of the technologies that are integrated into language learning, all that is extremely significant. And on the right-hand side of my screen, you can see that we started with computer-assisted language learning. Then we went to mobile-assisted language learning. So from call, we went to MAL. Today, we are in TEL, technology-enhanced language learning. So the language learning is the most important part, but it is aided by, helped by, enhanced by technology. So we know that the use of language learning apps is steadily increasing. And if you're in the chat room, just tell us, I'm sure you are using some of these language learning applications. The one I know best is Duolingo. So tell us, which ones are you using? We know that smartphones and tablets are essential devices in language classrooms. And today, with the pandemic, we are feeling this even more. We mustn't forget the whole movement of openness, open source language learning platforms, open source language learning programs are really popping up. They are mushrooming, and we are using them every day. So I've said that the COVID-19 pandemic has really, really forced us even more than before into blended and online interactions. I wouldn't be with you today if it wasn't because of these interactions and platforms like Zoom. So we're going first into the open education and open educational resources. Today, open access to knowledge is the most important thing. The issue of connectivity and democratization of knowledge, we are all allowed to learn anything we want, anywhere, at any time. We are connected. I mean, I am in Swaziland. I am probably at between 7,000 and 10,000 kilometers away from you. And we are talking to each other as if we are sitting next to each other. It's just wonderful. So open access to knowledge, information, skills, competencies is extremely important for three major reasons. First, it allows all of us to educate ourselves on a variety of issues that are of daily importance to us. Climate change, biodiversity, education, food production, water, energy, the pandemic. These are all critical challenges that we find in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the so-called SDGs. Now, free flow of information and knowledge prepares us to this new environment of learning, where education is open to all of us. It doesn't matter whether we are at home, we are in a school environment, we are old, we are young. It really doesn't matter where we live all through the world, what profession we exercise, we all have access to education. Now, this free flow also, and that is very important, allows for further knowledge creation. And I will talk to that just now. It is very important that in all local settings, we create knowledge. We make sure that the knowledge we have through our culture, through our tradition, through our religions, that all that knowledge keeps on growing and that we contribute significantly, each one of us, whether we are students, whether we are staff members, we all have something to say, we all have something to contribute. So what are open educational resources? There are many complicated definitions. I want to use this one from UNESCO, which is really a simple one. Open educational resources are teaching, learning, or research materials that are in the public domain, so we can all use them, or they are released with intellectual property licenses that are facilitating, that are easing, that are making it easy for us to use, adapt, and distribute them. So open educational resources can be a variety of things. They can be full courses or full educational programs. They can just be part of it, a module, a unit, a student guide, teaching notes, a textbooks. They can be research articles in open access, small videos, podcast, videocast, assessment tools, all kinds of simulations and role plays, but also full databases, software applications, mobile applications. So anything that we can use in an educational setting can be an open educational resource. Now, why as an educational institution, why as a university, why as a school, we want to support the use of open educational resources for a number of issues, and I have listed them here on your screen, to develop and improve whatever we use to teach and learn, to design new programs and new courses, to organize interactive sessions like the one we have today with and among our students. Yeah, let's highlight also the importance of peer learning. As students, we need to learn from each other. They are used also to develop quality teaching and learning materials and to design effective assessment tools. And of course, we link with the world of work. As a university, we have the responsibility to prepare our students for their professional lives afterwards, or even during. Some of our students are working students. So while they are studying, they want to use whatever we teach them, whatever they are learning in their work environment. So open educational resources can make a significant impact. On this slide, you have a whole list of repositories. Those are websites where people upload open educational resources that we can freely use, we can freely adapt, we can take from there and change them to meet our local needs. So probably some of you have already used these, some of you know these. So again, in the chat, maybe you can share which ones you have used, which ones you found useful. Now, we are happy that these exist. We are very happy because we can all learn from what already exists. But very importantly, it would be even better if we can make our own open educational resources. So now my next question to you is, and for now you can respond in the chat room, have you produced any open educational resources? As an individual staff member, as a student, as a university? And if you have, I really hope you have, if you have, do you have a university repository, a database where you can put together those open educational resources? If you do, please share that with me. If you don't, please think about having such database, such repository, because it will really help you to make new open educational resources that everybody can benefit from, whether they are in Bahasa Indonesia, whether they are in English, whether they are in any of the languages we use to communicate with each other. So for that, as a university, it's important to know how to use and develop open educational resources. So as a university, it's important that we develop these skills to evaluate, are the documents that we find online in these databases, are they useful? Are they quality documents? We need to consider publishing open educational resources. We can start by using existing ones, adapting them, localizing them, contextualizing them for the Indonesian market. But it would be even better, as I said, to produce new ones, to publish information and knowledge that is important to our local society and communities. It's very important for us to work in teams. I hope you are doing research as teams. I hope as students you are doing group work. We need to learn how to work with each other. This is how we develop team working skills that are very important in the 21st century. So networking, communities of practice, as Ibu Rita said in the beginning, we met in 2012. We are still communicating. We are still working together. And this is how it should be. We need to learn from each other. And that is why I'm so happy to be with you today. Now, when we develop open educational resources, we mustn't think this is only for staff members. Students have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge to share that they should be sharing with us, and so that we can all grow from there. So that's what I wanted to share about how academic staff and students should be looking at open educational resources and producing them. Now we come to multimodality. Now, if you look at the word multimodal, it's composed of two parts. Multi, which means many, different, variety, and modal means the variety of interactions, the variety of tools, the variety of instruments. I will, in the next slide, detail this a little bit more. I want you to just to look at the visual and identify how a multimodal message can be composed. You can see there can be audio, there can be music, there can be text, there can be images, there can be art. I think, we need to be very creative when we interact and use art, emojis, symbols to convey our messages. We all use WhatsApp. We all use other platforms like Telegram, like Signal, like WeChat, and we use a lot of emoticons, a lot of emojis. It's very important to use them because they convey a message through a symbol that we don't need to necessarily verbalize through text. Now, we know that almost all the interactions between ourselves and the computer engaged more than one sense. We listen, we speak, we see, we touch on the touch screens. So all that are various human senses. And this is why we say they are multimodal. Now, I want to share with you something that comes from the NOMSA, the NOMSA network, which I'm part of. And you can go and check on their website. I will talk about them also a little bit later. But we look at networking in around open educational resources and multimodality. Now, multimodality can be looked at from different viewpoints, from different levels. First, it can be individual. I might learn better when I read, but Ibu Rita might be learning better if she listens, while our moderator might be learning better if she uses action. So we all have an individual multimodality. We also have an interactional multimodality. This is related to the mode of communication we prefer, the mode of communication we prefer using. I might prefer sending an email to my students, but my students might prefer getting a WhatsApp message. Ibu Erlina might be wanting to receive a voice message because she enjoys listening to someone's voice. So that is why using different modes of communication, using a multi-mode approach to communication is a useful way to do. Now, again, when we use at the mode of communication, we know there are those that are verbal, so spoken and written, and those that are non-verbal. I'm sure when you go back to your first classes in human communication, you remember that difference between verbal and non-verbal. So we can be speaking, we can be writing, we can be reading, or we can be using gestures. You've probably noticed that I'm using my hands a lot because this is how I communicate. We can use sounds, we can use animations, we can use pictures and arts and videos. Now, we've looked at individual multimodality. We've looked at interactional multimodality. Now we also need to look at instructional multimodality. How are we disseminating knowledge? How are we sharing knowledge? How are we teaching? How are we learning? So then we have to look at the mode related to the environment, but also the mode of delivery. So we can do things face-to-face in a synchronous way when it comes to blended, where we use both the face-to-face and the online, or we can go fully online, which is what is happening in most parts of the world today because of the pandemic. Now, when we look at the mode of delivery, the same face-to-face is looked at but described as contact. Blended is described as hybrid, and online is described as distance. So basically, this is all that. Now, what is important too, and what is linked to multimodal learning, what is the ultimate or the most important objective is when students are able to take charge of their own learning. Students, I know you are listening. Students, it is ultimately your responsibility, your mandate to take care of your learning. As lecturers, as instructors, we are there to help you, to guide you, but you need to self-direct, to take responsibility, especially in this complex multimodal context we live in, we teach and learn in. So why is multimodality so important, so great? Because it helps us to construct knowledge. We hope that you get knowledge through working on your memory, and getting inputs from different sides helps that. Multimodality is important because we can engage at different levels, and multimodality is useful because diverse learners can be implicated, can be put together in different ways of learning. We know that we all learn differently. We are diverse. We have different personalities. We have different learning. So giving you that opportunity through multimodal learning. On the right-hand side, you have a smaller visual that talks about cognition and memory. Hearing can lead to knowing. Seeing can lead to remembering. So we are working on our memory, but also we have doing, which can lead to understanding, and that is termed metacognition. Now, when these all come together through multimodal learning, this is where deep learning happens. This is where we are able to really how can I say, really have an impact on our learning and improve things for our society. So this is all extremely important. All right. So we've looked at open educational resources. We've looked at multimodality. Before I go into flexibility, I just want to remind you that technology for language learning comes with a big variety. There are those for mobile learning, and I'm sure the students and the staff among us can give examples of those in the chat room. We know there are technologies for multimedia learning. Again, I am sure you can give examples. Perhaps I can also give some examples like using the audio or the video, using images can all be used for multimedia learning. Then we have technologies for socialized learning. And there, the examples are multiple. WhatsApp, Facebook, Edpuzzle, Kahoot, Quizlet. Again, I am sure in Indonesia you have apps that you developed, that some of the bright students and staff members have developed to help you learn in a social manner. We are, as human beings, we are social animals. We are social beings. So we learn through interacting with each other. That's why it's important. We always talk, we always interact. We also have technologies for speech to text and text to speech recognition. These are very important because they strengthen the connections between the audio and the text. And when we look at it from a multimodal perspective, since we know that some of us learn better by reading, it's useful if somebody talks that we can transform this into text. So technology for that exists. But for the others that like to listen more than they like to read, the text to speech recognition is very important. More and more, we are talking about gamification. Digital game-based language learning is very important because it can promote learner engagement, interaction. It can enhance knowledge. It can enhance comprehension through different ways. So I hope this is all going well. I hope you are all following me. At the moment, because I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the chat, but maybe the moderator can tell me if all is going well so that I can proceed. Moderator, am I audible? Yeah?
All is
Great.
well. You can just continue the presentations.
Super, super. I will look at the chat later on, but for now, just allow me to continue a little bit more. So, now, what are the purposes and the benefits of using technology in language teaching and learning? And I'm sure you already know that because you have been using those technologies. But what is important is that we bring language learning, we put it in a real world settings. If we learn English, we need to know where English is spoken, where we can use the English we learn, and what we learn from that vast knowledge of the English language needs to be what is of use to us personally, individually, professionally, but also as a society. So in Indonesia, why are we learning English? You tell me. I know a certain amount of reasons, but you know even better where and when you use English and why you use English. So we use technology to promote the practice. How do we use English in different settings? We use it to deliver content, as lecturers, as staff members. We want to share some of the knowledge we have with you. So we use the English language and we use technology to do so. We use it to facilitate interactions. I've said to you, we are social beings. Language learning is a social process. So it cannot be a one-way thing. It must be a dual, a two-way thing between us and you, between you and us. And that interaction needs to be regular, ongoing. So language technology or technology used in language teaching and learning, the famous TELL I spoke about at the beginning, has helped us to think about how we teach and learn. We are going from what was fixed, what was structured, what was teacher-centered, to something that is more and more flexible, more and more learner-centered. We need the input from the learner from the beginning to the end. Right. Okay. So here you've got a nice pyramid where you can see lots of different technologies that are used used in the setting of language teaching and learning. I'm sure you can identify some of them. There's YouTube, and I hear we are streaming live, so that's wonderful. There's YouTube. There is things like Flickr for sharing pictures, photos. There's Creately. There's VoiceThread. There's all the Google ones. But we can add, I think what would be lovely is for you to recreate such a pyramid by putting in all the different technologies that you have been using in your own setting and adapting this pyramid to the Indonesian setting. Now, you can also see that this pyramid has different levels. And maybe some of you recognize Bloom's taxonomy on this. Now, Bloom created this taxonomy in the late 1950s, but we are still using it in teacher education. It goes from the bottom part, which is remembering. And it goes all the way up to creating. And creating is really what we want to achieve individually and also with you as our students. We want you to be able to create, because this is how you can contribute to your own society. Creating new apps, creating new content, creating new knowledge, creating open educational resources. That's where ultimately we all want to go. But it starts at the bottom, where we have lots and lots of apps and technologies. And you can see at the top we have much less, but it's at the top that we want you to add things. So this narrative on the slide really verbalizes, textualizes what we have looked at in the pyramid. So Bloom's dimensions, Bloom's taxonomic elements are given here. So we have remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And for each of them, we have given some examples, but I really want you to add on to those examples. I don't think I need to go into more details what Bloom's taxonomy means to you, but we can come back to this if need be, if there are questions later on in the chat room or through your verbal presentations. In this slide, I just want us to look at the importance of the synchronous interactions and the asynchronous interactions. Synchronous interactions are very important. This is what we are doing now. And especially later on when all the IBUs, all the colleagues, all the students, men and women will be talking. That is when we are interacting, and that is good for knowledge sharing, but is most important for social interactions. And I got to the Zoom room this morning a little bit early, and I found the colleagues that were already there, sharing some how they were feeling, how things were going. We were talking about what was happening in Eswatini at the moment. We were talking about what was happening in Indonesia, in Palembang at the moment. So those social interactions are very important. Asynchronous interactions are as important, but they have different modes of doing so. This is where we share more additional reading. This is where students watch videos or we watch videos. This is where we can have written online discussions. This is where we can practice and review content. Of these has its own importance, and depending on your local setting, one of those can be prioritized. For example, in Eswatini, we still have many people who have limited internet access. So I can have a Zoom class, but I know I will have to follow it up with something asynchronous, where the discussion can continue, where more students will have access. So this is, again, the importance of multimodality that is underlined. Both synchronous and asynchronous are important, but we need to carefully choose them for different settings. So this is, again, where we verbalize what we have seen in the previous slide in an image way. The advantages and disadvantages of synchronicity and the advantages and weaknesses of asynchronous interactions. Synchronous, like what we are doing today, means I can have immediate feedback from you. You could be raising your hand and talking to me now. Because it's a guest lecture, I have the privilege of talking to you one way, but soon we will have that possibility of interacting, of you asking questions, of me responding, or of you responding. So the possibility to actively participate is there. Of course, the disadvantage is if my internet goes down now, I can no longer interact with you. So that is one of the disadvantages. Technology needs to be available. And also, this is scheduled. We are now talking to each other at, I don't know what time it is, 1:30, 2:00 in Palembang. If you are not available at 2:00 in Palembang, you cannot be listening to this in a synchronous way. Asynchronous gives you more time to think. If you are doing an assignment, you can take your time and really develop your thought. It's also possible to quickly find additional resources. So that is something that is a benefit to asynchronous environments. The weakness is that if we are in an asynchronous environment and you give me feedback, it might take some time before I respond. Maybe I'm busy with other tasks. And so it's also more difficult to understand a complex task. If I am talking to you and you have a question and I respond immediately, you have your feedback. I can break down the task to you. But if it is in an asynchronous environment and I respond to your email after 2 or 3 days, which is actually still quite fast, then, of course, it will take more time for you to understand what you are supposed to be doing. Now we are going to flexibility. And this is the last major part of my talk this morning or this afternoon for you. So when you look everywhere at flexibility, we note that it is very much a buzzword, very much a key word when we talk of the benefits of online learning. And there is a February 2021 report from the International Council on Distance Education, which made a report on its quality issues, and it highlighted 7 important advantages. Student-centered flexibility, because the student has his own way of learning that works for each of these students. Students can attend classes and courses anywhere as long as they have a smartphone, a laptop, a computer, but most importantly, access to the internet. Online learning gives students a better opportunity to choose from various schools and courses. So that means as a university, we must ensure quality. Otherwise, we might lose our students. Now, online course materials can be accessed 24 hours a day, every day. That is what flexibility entails. Knowledge can be shared from anyone, anywhere in the world. Today, I'm from Eswatini, originally from Belgium. I am talking to you in Indonesia. Just now, you will be sharing your knowledge with me. I will be learning from you. So that is just what online learning is and what the benefits are. Now, when you look at the benefits, you can see here on the screen, you can see flexibility ranked number 1. And on the left, flexibility is part of all those benefits. So what is flexibility? Flexibility, this is what I want to show you. Flexibility is a key learner that has to do with learner choice. So flexible learning is learner-centered. It encourages greater independence and autonomy on the part of the learner. So it is there because we want to enable and empower learners and give them greater control of their learner and become more self-directed. So flexibility, when I looked in the dictionary, and I used the Cambridge Online Dictionary, but any dictionary is useful, is the ability to change or be changed. Now think of the pandemic. Think of what has happened in the last more than a year now, I would say the last 18 months, almost 2 years now, what has happened? We have had to be extremely flexible. Everything is changing. Everything is changing every day. We are confronted with extremely difficult situations, and we need to change everything. What we thought was good, what we thought was right, what we thought was going to help us, we had to change it. So that means we have had to be flexible. And that is, as I said in the beginning, one of those skills of the 21st century that are extremely important to us. Now, flexible learning can be represented in different ways. We can look at it as efficient practice. We can also look at it as the way of gaining competitive edge. As I said, an institution of higher education, like a university, competes with other institutions. So if we are flexible, we can have the upper hand. We can be the ones that attract international and local students. Flexibility also means we can achieve equity. Equity so that everybody can access teaching and learning. And flexibility also can be looked at as a mode of delivery. And then we are thinking of the use of technology to enhance, to improve flexibility. Okay? So these are just a few highlights that I've taken from Naidu, who already in 2011 looked at the implications of flexibility. So flexibility is not only a mode of study, a mode of delivery, but it is a value principle. It is as important as diversity, equity, equality. It is important in education, but it is even more important in society at large. So freedom from the limitations of time, place, and pace of study. This also links to another important concept I'm not going to talk about today, but I want you, if you are on Google, just look it up. It's ubiquitous learning. UBIQUITOUS. And you will see how much it links to the idea of flexibility and autonomy. Okay, I'm just going to highlight a few points of the flexible models of delivery. So we know individuals can learn anywhere and anytime it is suitable to them, but it goes beyond, because in business as well, employers can train when needed. Employees can learn when needed. So if you are working and you find that there is a skill you are lacking, you don't have to wait for somebody to teach you. You can go and find resources, preferably open educational resources, that can, at that particular moment, help you out. So that is extremely important. That is also why YouTube is so valuable. Because if I don't know how to cook a certain dish, I can look for the recipe. But if I go onto YouTube and I find somebody showing me how to do it, I will learn even faster. So that is all, what this is all about. It increases retention, memory. It also increases attendance, because if you like listening to someone, you will listen. If you like reading, like now, you will be reading on the screen. So if you like looking at my facial expressions or my gestures, you can look at me. This is where it all comes together. So just to note that also in a Chloe report, which did some survey with online officers in many American colleges and university in February 2011, it was noted that one of the most important things university will be looking at in the coming weeks, months, and years is to offer increased flexibility to their learners. So that is extremely important, and I think that's a takeaway we should all think about. So flexibility needs to be embedded, needs to be integrated in different points in the design of the learning experience, but also in the engagement that the learner has with the content, that the learner has with the instructor, the teacher, the lecturer, that the learner has with the co-learners, with the other friends in the online community. It also has to do with the learner engagement with, for example, I don't know which one you are using. We are using Moodle. So the learning management system, the learning environment is very important that we design this to be flexible. But also with assessment activities. As a learner, I might be happy to prepare a video. Another learner might be more happy with writing an essay. Another learner might be more happy with sending you a beautiful art creation. So can we be flexible as instructors, as university, to accept these different responses to our assessment activity? We also need to be flexible with feedback. I can give feedback to a whole class, but I can also give feedback to an individual learner. I can do this through a voice note. I can do this through a little video. I can do this through a WhatsApp. Can we be flexible? Can we do that? Is our institution allowing us that flexibility? Right. So course design, course delivery, course assessment, tools we use. So we need to build in flexibility at different levels. That is what is extremely important. I would like to not go into detail in these different slides that follow, but I want to come slowly to my conclusion, the visuals. The principle of flexibility again at curriculum level. So we need to make sure that our curriculum is adaptable, is accessible to our students' needs. And I think many universities are lacking behind. We wait, and we don't change our curriculum, our programs. We should be doing this on a regular basis. In the learning environment, I've touched upon this, functional requirements. There are also non-functional requirements. If need be, I can come back to that later on. Know that technology is pedagogically neutral. We, as the course designer, together with our students, need to bring in pedagogy into the learning environment. So that connection is extremely important. Finally, learning style. I've touched upon this. There are inventories on the right in that red square. You can see different types of inventories. And again, I would like to encourage you to use Google Scholar, to use Google Search, Bing, or Yahoo, or whatever search engine you are using to look at some of these. Kolb's Learning Style Inventory, but there is a questionnaire that was set up by Honey and Mumfords that is very good if you want to know for yourself what is your personal learning style. So I think you can learn a lot from that. So we need to give students more control of their learning. We can do that through a variety of ways. I have put this in a visual flexibility in homework, flexibility in assessment. We can personalize content. We should be offering a lot of self-assessment. Our classroom policy should be as flexible as possible. We can adjust the schedule. I think, like we are doing today, because we are recording, that will also allow us to then have students and staff look at this again and again when it suits them. And that is important. Today might not be the right time for listening to me, but tomorrow might be. Okay, I'm coming to the end. And this is where I want to bring it all together. Multimodality, open educational resources, and flexibility. I really like this this visual, because it shows how these link to each other, how they go back to each other, how they move smoothly from one into the next. So the use of user-generated content, Wikipedia, what we are doing on Facebook, what we are doing on YouTube, the blogs and the vlogs that we have, the multimedia message services, all that is brought together. And the prevalence of media and visual forms of communications have really changed how we learn, how we teach languages. So our language curricula, our language programs should use that information and think about what our young learners are able of doing. So people are both meaning makers and meaning receptors. It's important that we allow everyone to create. And in today's making of meaning, multimodality is there. Spoken language is associated with audio because we use intonation, we use inflection, we use pitch, we use tempo and pause. Gestures are extremely important when we communicate. I nod my head, I use my hands, I don't sit still, I move around. All that is important because it underscores the verbal language that I am using. So we need to use all that. Flexible pathways need to go hand in hand with flexible systems for digital pedagogy. Flexible learning needs to go into face-to-face if we ever go back to that. I think the pandemic has shown us that flexibility is so important and will never stop. And we will be using online environments from today onwards. We won't be able to get away from it. It is part and parcel of modern day language teaching and learning. Okay, the last thing, but I can see it's not very clear. So I will try and share the information via the chat just now. On the 6th and the 7th of December, we will be holding a virtual conference, which I would like to invite you all to. And I will share the information so that you can see it clearly. I'm sorry for this bad visual. I hope you will send in proposals and I hope you will be participating. It is organized by NOMSA, so that network of multimodality and open educational resources. It is based in South Africa, but it encompasses the whole Southern African region. And we would like to invite the larger subcontinent that Indonesia is to participate with us. And with that, moderator and dear participants, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I am now inviting comments, questions, and whatever interaction we can have. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Meyers. It's a very interesting topics, and there are a lot of insights that we got from your presentations. And we have already had several responses here in the chat box. The first one, there's response from Professor Dimro Isan. He said that you totally agree with the keywords that you use, and we must do, and maybe we have been in them in teaching, and we should be flexible in using OER and multimodality. And we have already had questions from Ismail Petrus in the chat box. The questions is, in terms of assessment, what would be the best way to assess students in online learning without cheating? I think it deals with the flexibilities in assessment, Professor. What do you think?
All right. Okay. Yes. I mean, I think we have major issues when it comes to plagiarism, when it comes to cheating in online exams. Technology can help us. We could use online proctoring software, which allows us, to look and to trace what the student is doing at the moment the student is writing the online examinations. Of course, this has a lot of issues with privacy. What gives us as an institution the right to go into a student's home, to go into a student's personal email addresses, personal websites? It has a danger with it. I think the most important thing we need to do is to try and change our assessment to make it as authentic as possible, and perhaps even personalize it. A question I ask from Ibu Rita should not be the same question as the one I'm asking from Ibu Lina, because it will follow on what the student has learned throughout the program. So perhaps if I assess what the colleague who has asked the question, Ismail Petrus, has learned, I will be asking different questions to this learner so that cheating will become more virtually impossible. Because if I'm asking you for your opinion, if I'm asking you for something you have created from what you have learned, you won't be able to go and look at what the other person has learned, because we've all learned something different. So it has to come with a real shift in how we look at assessment. Are we really assessing students for the skills they have acquired, the skills they will be using in their professional lives? So I think that's where we really need to think about that. I don't have, a one answer solution. It's something that we really need to think about even further. But thank you for that question. It's extremely important.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So one of the way we can make a personalized assessment, so each individual of the learners should share their own personal experience regarding the materials. Okay, now we also have the second questions from Merta Septiani. What if you are misled when we learn from open resources, since each individual has unique comprehension skills, especially young learners? What do you suggest?
Okay, so many people have said, when we have open educational resources, when we have all these technologies, when people can learn from anywhere they want, why do we still have teachers? Well, this is where the teachers come in. This is where we need to be guiding, especially the young learners. This is where we need to carefully curate, carefully choose and select the open educational resources, the technology that exists to guide our younger learners, but even to guide our more mature learners, our university students, our adults that are on a lifelong learning path. They are experts, they are specialists. This is where we come in as the teacher, to make sure that the open educational resources we share are adapted for the young learner, so that we can make sure that the values we have as a society are not overlooked. We don't want to throw all these open educational resources. We don't want to throw everything at all our learners. We want to choose, we want to pick and choose what is right for our learners. I hope, Myrta, this answers your questions. But I also want to find out from you, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the next question is still related to the previous one, still about open access resources. What are, this is from Devita Ekalestari, professor. What are some challenges that arose in teaching and learning materials for open access, including the quality issues and copyright clearance?
Okay, let's tackle them one by one. Okay, there is great resistance within academia to go open. I think many of us still feel that if we have written something, if we have produced something, then, it's something we want to guard. It's something, that belongs to us. We don't really want to share it. We don't really want everybody to have access to it. I think that's one of the faults we have in academia, and it's something we need to break free from. If today I am sharing with you, it is nice, it is good if it can be shared as wide as possible, because the sharing that we do will benefit others. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't agree with me, and then, you can put out your own voice, you can share what you feel. So this resistance to open access is something that is very strong. I think we need to all work together to break it down. With regard to quality, now quality, it's not because you have published something that has intellectual property attached to it, that has copyright attached to it, that the quality is guaranteed. In order to get something that is quality, we need to build in different steps. And working as a team will help. Having your work looked at by other colleagues will help. If I make a presentation and colleagues tell me, okay, but have you read this or have you looked at that? Then I can enhance the quality. Then next time I speak, I will include those points, and the quality of what I am sharing will be better, will be improved. So openness does not exclude quality. To the contrary, I would say, openness will make sure quality is even better. When we think of, for example, Wikipedia, in the beginning, Wikipedia was, to be frank, was nonsense. It was really bad. We could find a lot of false information there. Now today, because many people are participating and are adding and sharing resources, we can say that Wikipedia has improved a lot. So the quality has been enhanced. So this is so with everything that is on the open market. This is with everything that has been shared freely and openly. Copyright clearance, yes. I mean, today we still have a lot of things that happen with copyright attached to it. I think we need to move away from that. We need to go to open access and not forget to acknowledge that if something else has done something, prepared something, then let's cite them, let's quote them, let's include their name. So this is also a form of copyright, but that is much less stringent, much less difficult, much less closed off than what we are used to. So I hope, Devita, this gives you some ideas, but I'm sure you can include other thoughts and other ideas as well. Thank you for your questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor. We still have 10 more minutes for the sessions. So I invite the audience, if you have questions, you can just directly ask to Professor Meyers. we open for the direct questions and answer sessions. Please, if you have any questions, anyone, you can raise your hand maybe, so I can see which one.
I would love to see you and hear you.
Come on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think one of the keywords from what you've discussed today is about open educational resources. I mean, it's not only about open resources, but it's open educational resources. It means the user have already evaluated that the content or the information given in the resources is related to what they are going to make, for example. So indeed. Yeah, so just like your presentations, you said that there is developed skills to evaluate the resources, the open educational resources. So it deals with how we can evaluate the contents of the resources, the open resources that we have. I think something like that, Professor.
Yes, we definitely need skills for that. I mean, we need to know what's a valuable document. We need to know how it has been put together, who was working on it. So that's why, even when we have open educational resources, we will cite the people who were working to prepare this so that we can check, we can do a Google Scholar search, and see, have these people published before? Do they know what they're speaking about? Are they specialists in the area? Or is it just anybody who wants to share something? So I think also what helps is when we go to those repositories, those databases that I talked about, those documents there have been looked at by evaluators, by quality assurance people. If you have your own repository in your university, the people from the library, can make sure that this is a quality document. They can check whether, on the language part, is it well written? Is it easily understandable? Does it have a good structure? All those things are important when it comes to quality. Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Professor. Now, I still invite from the audience if you have any questions, or I think feedback or any kinds of responses, so we can discuss more regarding this topic. You can just directly unmute your speaker so you can directly ask to Professor Meyers. Anyone? Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Please, Professor Pak Dimro.
Okay. Thank you, moderator. Professor Meyer, I'm very happy to know you today. Let me introduce myself. I am a retired lecturer from this faculty, but we still teach in this program. As I said in my comment, that I am inspired by your topic today, even though we have been doing this, but not as much as we think. All teachers might have done the way they teach, being flexible and using resources and using very small team teaching. But after listening to your speech today, it seems that we teachers need to know more, to learn more how to apply this topic. How flexible we teachers should be, Professor. My question, how flexible we should be in teaching. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much for this important question. Hey, it's a tricky one. I mean, how flexible should we be? How flexible can we be? I think it also depends on our personalities. Some of us will be more flexible. You could see as soon as we hit the pandemic, some people went online immediately. Were sharing, were teaching, and others have been very resistant Others have had very much difficulties in doing that. So it has to do with personality. It also has to do with our institutions. In some universities, as individual lecturers, we will be allowed to be flexible. But in other universities, the control of the structure is much more important, so it will be more difficult to be flexible. I think what is important now is for us, if we like the idea of flexibility, then we need to talk to our colleagues. We need to talk to our deans, to our secretaries, to the management of the university, to share the benefits, to show how important it is to be flexible. But of course, we can already try and implement as much as we want in our individual lives, in our individual courses. And I'm really happy, dear colleague, that you are sharing that really you have been flexible. You have been trying, to ensure that instruction continues as much as possible during the pandemic. And I think in Indonesia, possibly you are already in a good situation because you were already knowledgeable about distance learning, about the different types of students you have. I think you have a very good relationship with your students from what I saw already in 2014. So that relationship, because it's very strong, I think you need to keep on building on that and learn from them and share what you have to share. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor. And I think just listening to your explanations, one policy can accommodate or facilitate the flexibility regarding the institutions, or how the institutions can facilitate the flexibility can be done by the teachers or the lecturers. I think something like that, Professor.
Yes. Okay, so above what we can do as individuals, of course, at policy level, there is need for that too. I think at policy level, if a university can have, okay, we all have policies on ICTs, we all have policies on ICT infrastructure, but perhaps we need to go into policies around the softer skills, a policy on flexibility, a policy on multimodality, a policy on open educational resources. I don't know if your university has such policies, but I think they are very important because we look up to our leaders. We look up to the university management to guide us. But sometimes it is us as individuals who need to show what is possible. So looking around, looking at what policies exist elsewhere will help us to really draft those policies and then ask them to be implemented. I know at my university, it's only recently that we have a policy on blended learning, that we have certain certain points on online learning, that we have a policy on open educational resources. We also have a point in that policy on an institutional repository. So those are things that each university needs to think about and draft, because it needs to respond to your institutional needs. So yes, policies are extremely important for that.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor, for all of your explanations and insights for today's general lectures. I hope this forum can be one of media for us to sharing our ideas, and there are also a lot of students here, so I hope they will get some valuable insights from our today's general lectures. Okay, thank you so much, Professor Meyers, and thank you everyone for attending today's general lectures, multimodal and open educational resources. If you have any questions regarding our events or our next events, please just contact our English education study programs. And on behalf of the committee and our presenters, thank you today. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great rest of today. Thank you. This is the end for our general lectures today.
Thank you.
I think we can take photo sessions yeah. I think all of us, we can open our video so the committee can take the screenshot of our event today. Okay, this is for the first page of the room. Okay.
Great.
Smile. Okay. Thank you. Now this is the second one, the second page.
Lovely.
Okay. The next one. Okay. The next one. Okay. Yeah, and the last one.
So many participants. It's really been an honor. It's really
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
200%. Thank you so much, Professor, for having a good sharing with us today.
It's been a pleasure, and it's lovely seeing you all in good health.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you so much.
A special thanks to you, Rita, once again.
Yeah, sure.
I love you've put a lot of work into this, and I really appreciate it immensely.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Yeah, because you know that your material is very inspiring, and it is. We have to do that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah. We'll do it. It's okay. See you next.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Okay.
One day we will go to your place.
Yeah, stay safe, stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you for all the audiences.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.